everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Whitney, and today we are back at it again with this segment of A Writer's Scope. So this segment is where you guys send to my email any advice that you need, whatever you're going through. It really does not matter, and I will hopefully give you my best advice that I possibly can. You know, all I'm here to do is to help anybody and everyone in any way that I can, even if it is just one person. So while you guys are looking on the email on the screen, don't forget that it's also down in the description box below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on your post notifications, and also follow me on all of my social medias. They're all the same. They're literally all the same. Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, all the same. So just find a way, do it, and then I love interacting with you guys. So you know what? Let's just get right into this video. So like always, I'm going to put the email on the screen, and this girl didn't care of me sharing her name because she was like, there's so many Ashleys in the world, might as well, right? So I mean, that's true. Like, how are you gonna know which Ashley is which Ashley? I think her email is really cute. I'm not gonna show that because that will definitely give her away, and I'm sure she just said to tell her name. So all right, anyways. Okay, hi, my name is Ashley, and I came across one of your advice videos you recently uploaded. I connected so well to the video and loved the advice you gave. I think I may have a similar situation and I would love your help. So backstory, I have been with my boyfriend for 2 years. It will be 3 years in March. He is 24 and I am 23. We met in college and I fell in love. However, we're experiencing a rough patch. We're arguing what seems like every day, and when I ask him how can we make it better, he seems over it. I understand. I know fighting can be draining, but I still want to try. I tell him that it'll get better and just focus on our future and not the present. He seems to think that the present is more important. How do I show him that we can work it out? I got a laundry list to tell you right there. Also, my boyfriend has a female friend that he's gotten super close to, and it makes me uncomfortable. A little backstory, my boyfriend and I took a break from our relationship for like 5 months at the beginning of our relationship just to make sure that this was something that we were serious about. We realized that we're young and emotions change, so we wanted to be sure. But during this time, he had sex with a childhood friend, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't fazed because we weren't together, but ever since then they have gotten super close, and I can't lie, it makes me uncomfortable. He has never cheated on me and I have never cheated on him, but they have a past, an emotional and sexual past. I know she has feelings for him. I can't explain how I know, but I feel it in my gut. And when I asked him if he has feelings for her, he said they are strictly friends, but I don't know. I still feel a little insecure about it. What should I do? Also, I really want to hear about your first heartbreak as well. Dang, y'all just really want... Wow. Anyways, no, I'm just kidding. But anyways, by the way, you don't have to keep me anonymous. I'm sure there are plenty of Ashleys in the world. There honestly, there really are. But okay, so let's break through this part by part. Okay, so to answer the first part of your email, or let's just break it down, right? So you're telling me who you are, how long you guys been together. 3 years in March. That's great. That's fantastic. I love that. I love hearing that. Let's see. We're going through a rough patch. First thing that I want you to know is that in a relationship, I feel like I can confidently say that there is going to be a rough patch, because as you guys are growing older with each other and as you guys are starting to understand the human beings and the people that you are and coexisting with one another and intertwining your lives with one another, there's going to be a rough patch because there's going to be, I don't want to say conflict, but there's going to be opposing foes, right? Like one person is going to want something when the other one doesn't. One person might want to live in a trailer in the middle of nowhere while the other one wants a really big house in the middle of the city. Like things like that are going to happen. So I don't want you to think that this is horrible or anything like that, or like, why can't you guys just not argue? Because I don't want to say it was bound to happen, but don't think that this is not normal. This is not something that you can overcome. But moving on, we're arguing what seems like every day, and when I ask him how can we make it better, he seems over it. And you understand that, of course, because arguing is very draining. Like you said, it's very tiring, especially when it's every day, or well, it seems like every day. One thing that stuck out to me was that you said, I tell him that it'll get better and just focus on our future and not the present, but he seems to think that the present is more important. And here is very tricky because I kind of see a warning sign, but I kind of see it in you. And I want you to be open-minded with me. You know, this is coming from the bottom of my heart, and I'm trying to be loving here, okay? So when I was in the relationship that I was in for like ever, right? I would kind of tell him, I would say this to him, and looking back, it was just such an excuse because I didn't fully understand how I felt. All I knew is that I loved him, right? And I would tell him, I love you for the man you were yesterday, the man you are today, and the man you will be tomorrow, because you're constantly growing, you're constantly changing. So I can't constantly say that like I love you now when 20 seconds from now you're going to be a completely different person. And so I know that like listening to that, you're like, but that sounds sweet, that sounds great, that you want to grow with him. The thing is, I think mainly is where it stemmed from, because I knew that he was tired of the arguing, and like he was starting to use words like, maybe we're just not compatible. And I'm like, well, no, you need to focus on what we will be in the future, not the now. And one thing that I want to tell you is that while the future is great and fantastic, you won't have a future if you don't focus on the now. You won't have a beautiful, happily ever after if you don't fix what's going on right now. So in that way, he is kind of correct. Focus on the present. What's going on now? What do we need to handle now? But not finding a solution and not doing something about it is where the problem is. And one thing that I know is probably annoying to hear, but really it comes down to communication. Like your whole email really says communication failure, right? Like there's a loss of communication here. And so with this, I know for sure that communication solves everything. And I'm not saying that communication solves, I'm not saying because it solves everything, you guys will be together forever. It may be that you guys won't. It may be that you guys might break up. And you can't think that that's not a solution, because it might be, because I know you're thinking like, oh, I love him so much, I don't want that to be a solution, but it might very well be the greatest thing to have happened to you. And I know that you love him because you guys been together for a minute, and it's hard, right? It's not something anybody wants to go through. But what I think that you guys need to have here is a sit down talk. He needs to sit right here, you need to sit right here, and y'all need to just, you know, talk about everything. And if you have the time to do so, do it face to face. If you don't, do it over the phone. Don't do it over text, please. Let that be a last resort because people can misconstrue everything all the time. I know I do it all the time. And so another thing that I want to say is to be patient with him as well, because not everyone is going to see the future and think like, this is what I want, so whatever's going on now, I'm just not going to worry about it. Especially if it's at an alarming rate and it's as consistent as you say. Like, for example, okay, so my boyfriend, for example, tells me, well, I don't want to say forces me because it's something we agreed on, but he asked me to stop saying if in our relationship, right? Like, he keeps on saying to me, like, if you want, you know, our future and you want it solidified, let's speak it into existence. Like, let's stop saying if we last, if we get married, if we like have kids together. He's like, no, you want Jason, you want Robin, like those are the two names that I want, whatever, don't steal them. But he's like, then we're going to have Jason, we're going to have Robin, God willing, you know, but like we're going to speak as if it's already happened, it's already in our cards. So the if factor is not there, right? With this and how that plays into what we're talking about here is that the arguing is basically the if factor. The arguing is making him feel like he cannot see the future anymore. And because of that, it's hard for him to continue forward and be all happy about the future when it's starting to get cloudy, right? Like you can't see the sun when there's so many clouds in the way. Does that make sense? I hope I put that together for you correctly, because it makes sense to me, but I just need you to understand what I'm saying here, right? Your question is, how do I show him that we can work it out? That was another red flag. And I want to say, because you can't force anybody to see what you see. And if he does not want to see what you see, he's never going to see it. No matter what you do, no matter how much effort you put into showing him how much you love him, how much you believe in the relationship, if he doesn't believe it himself, I'm not saying he doesn't, I'm just saying, like, if he doesn't believe it himself, he's not going to see it. And the reason why I say that as well is because the fact that you need to show him obviously means that there's some doubt there. So I don't think your question should be, how do I show him that we're going to work it out? What you should be is sitting down with him and saying, hey babe, I have a solution and I really want to try this with you, but if you no longer want to do this, I understand, and maybe we can revisit getting back together later. And if that's not even an option, then I fully understand, maybe we just need time apart, right? That's just an option. But what I want you to kind of understand here is to not say, how do I show him that it's going to work out? You have to let him come to the conclusion himself, because it's 100% more authentic for him to be doing that, right? For him to come to the conclusion that, like, even though we're arguing all the time, I want this female for the rest of my life. I want Ashley, and you know what, I'm just gonna suck it up and get right through it. But like, if you show him, there's gonna be an element, he's gonna feel like it's not authentically coming from his heart. He's gonna feel like he was kind of coerced to continue forward with you. And it's not anything that like you're forcing him. Don't think that at all, because of course it's just coming from a great place. You love him. But he does need to, I know I've said that a lot, I'm so sorry, but he does need to come to that consensus on his own. And the way that he can do that is with you guys having better communication, working on your communication, working on your patience with one another, and also, what did you say? Having a conversation about the female. So, okay, so that's the end of the first one. So let's go into the second paragraph, right? I hate how much I relate to these emails, because I'm just like, I hate that I'm going through this or that I've went through this, but I'm also glad that I went through this so that way I can help someone else who hasn't. So in the beginning of my current boyfriend's relationship, I was trying to hold on to my ex that I was with for those years. We're just gonna let's give him a name so I can just stop saying my ex. We'll name him Travis. So Travis I was with for X amount of years. I was involved with him for about 4 years, like, because I met him when I was 18, but we didn't start being best friends until I was 19, you know. So, and I'm 23 now, so it was, you know, years. And so when Travis and I broke up, we were like, okay, we don't want to sever this bond, let's continue being friends, right? But we also took a separation on my account because I was trying to transition from being girlfriend to friend, and I knew that it wasn't going to work for me 1000% if I stayed, if I maintained contact with him, because I myself knew that, like, if I saw him with girls all the time, which he like jumped into like new relationships, like no big deal, right? And so like I knew for me that wasn't healthy. So I was just like, okay, I need time to myself. And he was perfectly okay with that. He was like, okay, as long as we get to be friends at the end of the day. And I was like, cool, great, awesome, thank you for understanding, you're a pretty great dude, right? And so in the process of me learning how to basically live again as a single person, be alone and like being alone, in the process of doing that and achieving that, I met my current boyfriend. And so when I started dating my boyfriend, then I was like, well, I don't want to say it was because I had my boyfriend that I was okay, but like I started to get to the point to where I could be Travis's friend again. So my current boyfriend walked into a relationship with me not knowing anything about Travis, right? Like not knowing that we were still friends. And then as we continued forward, that's when I started being friends with Travis. And my current boyfriend wasn't necessarily happy with that, right? And so I say all of this to say that me and Travis don't talk now. I say all of this to say that if you are truly a priority in his life, he will do anything he can to make you comfortable. So we have Anthony, my boyfriend, and Travis, my ex, who I was trying to maintain a friendship with, right? And so during this process of me trying to maintain a friendship with Travis, Anthony was telling me how like he wasn't comfortable with that because he wasn't comfortable with one-on-one hangouts. He wasn't comfortable because we were once, you know, intimate together in more ways than one, and we were together for a long time, right? And so with that, I was kind of trying to make a compromise between the two people. And it just wasn't like, I was constantly being tugged on one side and constantly being tugged on the other side. And that was because I was splitting up my energy between two different people. And that wasn't fair, one, to the friend that I was trying to keep. And that also wasn't fair to the guy who I wanted to continue with, to the guy that I wanted a future with, right? And so I don't want to say I had to make a decision because in that story, I was disrespected a lot, and so I didn't necessarily make a decision. Travis made the decision for me. But like, in that sort of situation, I had to find multiple ways to make my boyfriend Anthony comfortable. And that was one of his only things that he said to me was just, okay, if people see you guys out, they might think it's a date. I don't want you guys just hanging out one-on-one. Like going to dinner together, that's no, because that looks like a date, right? Or even like, what is something that happened? Even when we went to the gym, I don't even think that he had like a big deal about that. He was just kind of like, he's not comfortable with that. Group settings, he didn't care. One other person, he didn't care. And he didn't think that it was like babysitting them. He just didn't like the perception of it, right? And I say all of this to say to you, maybe you guys can find a solution, and maybe a compromise will not always work for everyone. I know that it's kind of like a slap in the face, and if you feel like it's a slap in the face, I don't want you doing a compromise, because it's just going to ruin your, it's not, I don't want to say it's going to ruin your relationship, but it's going to bring a lot of animosity and tension in your relationship. So just to give a little backstory, you guys had a break for 5 months and he had sex with somebody else during that break, and you say you don't care, but it makes you uncomfortable. And the reason why it makes you uncomfortable is because she's still present. And so basically I told you everything between me, Travis, and Anthony for the whole reason, because even though your boyfriend says that they are strictly friends, I feel you 1,000%, 100% that this girl probably has feelings for him. Because females, I mean, people always want to say that, oh, you don't know for sure, oh, you don't know for sure. But like, we kind of know, because when we see another female looking at our man the same way we look at him, like, it's like, come on, like, I'm not dumb, like, relax. Or like, if they're doing the extra mile for somebody, it's like, why is she acting like, why is she doing girlfriend acts when she doesn't have the title? Why is she acting like girlfriend material when she's not in that position? Why is she applying for this job unless somebody made it readily available? And so that's where I have the problem, because even though he may be like, we're just strictly friends, maybe he needs to evaluate where his attention is, and does he feel like he's being caught in the middle. I don't want you to bring him in the middle. I don't want you to make it seem like he has to choose between you or her, because that's mad childish. Let's try to not do that, because it's perfectly okay and it's perfectly possible for you guys to remain platonic. But one thing that you have to do is set boundaries, and that's one thing that your boyfriend has to do with that other girl, because if he doesn't set boundaries, then that's like a recipe for disaster. And so going back to my point of a compromise, boundaries are not a compromise. If you say to him, hey, like, let's create a boundary with this girl so that way I can be more comfortable, because I don't want you to lose a friend and I don't want us to fight over that friend. How about you guys just don't hang out one-on-one? Or how about she doesn't call after 9 o'clock at night, because that's inappropriate. Like, whatever it is for you, set up that boundary with him, because that's what I'm seeing here. I personally don't think that you guys need to break up over this, right? Like, obviously I'm not in this situation. I don't know the severity of the arguments. I don't know the severity of the situation, but like, just reading from everything, I'm thinking that this is a rough patch that you guys can definitely go over. You guys can overcome this, whether that is different solutions, right? Whether it is taking a break from each other and coming back and reuniting. And a break isn't just a week. A break isn't just 5 months. A break can be like a year or 2 years. Like, you have to be open to the separation, for one, because that might solve, your problems. That might solve basically everything. But I don't want you to come to those solutions before you communicate. So I want you guys to first sit down and talk to each other, talk about the boundaries, talk about how you guys can be more patient with one another, and then I want you to talk about the female. And then I want you to say, this would eliminate a lot more arguments if we had this sort of boundary, if we had this sort of let's say, agreement when it comes to her, because you guys were sexually active, and that doesn't fly with me. Because I know vice versa, if I had a friend that I was sexually active with, I know for a fact that you wouldn't be comfortable with that. And you are my number one priority, and my priority is being happy in this relationship together with you, right? And I feel like that's fair. Talking about communicating, talking about your patience with one another to eliminate arguing, talking about boundaries with other people and the female, that is 1000% doable, right? You just have to understand, like, you can't get loud with him during this communication. You have to be reasonable. You have to see his side as well, because looking from his viewpoint, like if I had a friend that, you know, like I said, right, Travis, right, who I was sexually active with before, and then I'm just strictly friends with him, I personally know for a fact that he didn't have feelings for me. I didn't have feelings for him when I had my boyfriend, right? But that doesn't matter, because we are exes. We were once a thing. And because we can't eliminate that history, we're going to have to do something for the people who come forward, right? For the people who come in the future, for the ones that we're trying to build a future with. That's just, it just comes with the territory of having a history. So I feel like, don't break up. And if he's not compliant with communicating and being patient and just seems dismissive with everything, I want you to try having the conversation twice. Me personally, I think 3 times is too much. I think 3 times I'm doing the most trying to get you to listen. I think once you should try to talk to him, and if he's just like, no, I don't want to talk about this, yada yada, this and there, this is, I'm so tired of this, just get over it, let's just focus on the present. Then you say, okay, well, we are going to have this conversation, and I want to be able to work on this relationship with you. So whenever you are ready, let me know. Give him at most 30 days. Come back to him and say, I don't like this tension. Like, of course, if it doesn't get better, right? But you also can't ignore the situation, even if things start to look up. You can have like a small conversation with him. It does not always have to be that deep, because if you guys continue forward and like things are getting better and there's boundaries with the girl, even without you saying anything about it, he can like be seeing things for himself. Like I said, right? Like you can't show him anything. He needs to see it for himself. So if he starts seeing it for himself after the 30 days, like I said, then you can just be like, hey, like, I really don't like that we went through that. Is there a way that we can avoid that kind of rough patch? Let's work on our communication, right? The talk is dependent on when it happens, when it occurs, and how you're feeling. So don't yell at him when you're in the conversation. Don't get loud. Don't get aggravated. Please don't cry, because then everything, once all those emotions are put in there, it's going to make it seem like how you're feeling is invalidated if you're acting irrational. Does that make sense? Like if you're acting irrational, then it's just going to kind of be like, well, now I'm just saying these things so you can start acting rational again. And we don't want that. We want to be adults here, where you're my age, you're 23 and he's 24. So we all want to be adults here. We all want to have a good conversation. So let's have a good conversation. Let's talk about our communication patterns. Let's talk about patience. Let's talk about boundaries. Let's talk about how we're going to move forward in the future while focusing on the present. Does that make sense? Because you're focusing on the things that are happening right now that will in turn make your future a happier place. All right, hopefully I helped you out with your situation. If you have any questions for me, don't like think that you can't send me another email. Send me another email. If you want me to go further in depth, I will definitely write back to you. No problem. I got you, girl. Don't worry about anything. I will do that for you. Also, everyone else, send it to my email. It's definitely on the screen. If you didn't see it in the beginning of the video, you're definitely seeing it right now, but it's also down there in the description box below. Don't forget, like, subscribe, help me out, guys. Help me out. And also follow me on all of my social medias, okay? Don't forget, my name is Whitney, and I will see you guys next week. Thanks.